Hello, my name's Helen Parr and I'm a lecturer in International Relations here at Keele.
I'm Barry Ryan. I'm also a lecturer in International Relations at Keele. So we want to talk a little bit about what you can come to expect if you decide to do a degree in International Relations at Keele.
One of the things that we look at in the degree, or probably perhaps the main thing that we think about in the degree, is how do you bring meaning to what happens in the world? And there are obviously many different ways in which you can bring meaning to world events, but here at Keele we focus on four main strands, or four main kind of ways of interpreting international politics. And they are international relations theory, so the different ways in which theorists think about how the world works; international security, so the kinds of things that, why do wars happen, how do we perpetuate peace; international history, which is looking at why things happened in the past in the way that they did; and political economy, which is looking at the kind of broader structures that surround world politics, interpreted through states.
So, for instance, take any newspaper article in the news at the moment. How many different ways are there to interpret an event? You can interpret an event broadly by looking at the different perspectives, or you can interpret it deeply by looking at the different ideas that are running through the description of any event that's happening at the moment in international relations.
In the first year you'll be taught in lecture groups where we lecture on the particular subject matter. But you'll also be taught in small tutorial groups, normally of around 10 or 12 students. And in the tutorial groups, the emphasis really is on getting the students to discuss their ideas and their impressions and their thoughts about the subject that we're looking at in any particular week. That's broadly also the same in the second year. You have a mixture of lectures and tutorials. But by the time you get to the third year, nearly all of our teaching is done in tutorial groups. And in those tutorials, students really do have a chance just to talk through the issues, to talk amongst yourselves about the issues, sometimes to give presentations. But the emphasis is really on getting students to talk about these questions and on us finding out what you think about these issues in order that you can better make judgments about them. Okay, so if I can just ask you a question. At the start of this interview we looked at a newspaper. So by the time students have finished their degree here, do you think they'll be reading that newspaper in a different way?
Well, yes. When we read the narrative that we're given, and we realise that there are so many different levels operating within that simple narrative that we read. And so at the end of your degree, you will be reading at a much, much deeper level, with a much greater level of understanding. There are as many levels in a newspaper article, in an event, as there are questions. And it's the generation of these questions that makes a very good scholar in the field of international relations.
And there are as many perspectives as there are people as well. And one of the things that we hope to do is to give you the kind of skills and tools to interpret these things in a way that makes sense to you. And that's one of the great things about international relations, is that there are so many different ways of looking at the world and so many different ways of interpreting these events. And by the time you finish your degree here, we really hope that you'll have come to some understanding about the best way that you think that world politics works.
Because that's exactly what you need if you're going to be a decision maker in any walk of life. You need to be able to understand what's happening out there and what is your opinion, your informed opinion, what's happening, in order to make that decision. And that decision comes from you rather than from somewhere else.